Join women passionate about agriculture and food at the upcoming Advancing Women in Agriculture Conference being held on November 17th, 18th, and 19th, 2024 at the Sheraton Fall Views in Niagara Falls, Ontario. Re-energize and re-engage while listening to leaders in the agriculture and food industries tell their stories. You can network and make connections while learning tips that will help you meet your goals. For more information and to register, head to the link in today's show notes. Hi, I'm Caitlin Dubin, and this is the Rural Woman Podcast. I'm a first-generation farmer who married into agriculture. Born and raised in a city, I was so unfamiliar with where my food came from, but I was determined to figure it out. Through my journey into agriculture, I saw women who were strong but humble, often taking a back seat. To me, these women were leaders who deserved a seat at the table. I created the Rural Woman Podcast to share the voices of women in an industry whose stories often went untold. The rural entrepreneurs who live and breathe their work, full of grit and pride. We come here to share our stories, to be in community with each other, to be challenged and inspired, but most importantly, to be celebrated and to be heard. We may not all live, farm, ranch, or homestead the same, but we are all connected. We are rural women, and our stories are worthy of being told. Hey everyone, welcome to a special two-part series of the Advancing Women in Agriculture mini interviews. These interviews were conducted in March of 2024 at the Advancing Women in Agriculture West Conference in Calgary, Alberta. We did these interviews back in 2022 at the same conference, and I have to say that this go around was something really special. And I want to say a big shout out and thank you to my team that was there in person to help me. Kim and Kristen from Kim & Co. came all the way from Ontario to help me at the conference and to connect with these incredible women that you are about to hear. There is something truly special when women in agriculture come together, and this is what happens each and every time at the Advancing Women in Agriculture Conference, whether that's West or East. This go around of interviews, we actually gathered all together in one big room and we got to sit and listen to each and every one of these stories. So there is audience interaction that you will hear, and it was truly something special. I honestly went up to Iris Meck, the organizer of the Advancing Women in Agriculture Conference, and told her it felt like Rural Women Church. So I hope you get that same sense and that same feeling during this two-part series. If you enjoy these mini interviews and would like them to be at an upcoming conference that you're a part of, please reach out to us at hello@wildrosefarmer.com, and we would love to chat about your upcoming conference and how we can do mini interviews with your guests. Without further ado, my friends, let's get to the special mini interview series with Advancing Women in Agriculture.
Also my first podcast, so I'm sorry. You can actually delete my, it was bad.
Girlfriend,
yeah,
that was recorded. And we're going to leave that in there because we're going to make this as a learning opportunity and a learning moment for everyone listening and everyone in this room. Your story is worthy of being shared, and we're not going to delete a damn thing. How's that sound?
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, cool. Tell us who you, after I just bullied you, tell us who you are, where you're from, and how you're involved in agriculture.
Okay, hello everyone, and Caitlin. It's so nice to meet you here. I'm Alexandra Omelchuk. I'm from Ukraine. It's my first year in Canada. Yeah, and how I'm involved in agriculture, I'm doing my bachelor's degree in University of Alberta in agriculture with minor in food business management. Yeah, so exciting to be in Canada, in Calgary, and in this conference.
Absolutely, so cool.
Yeah.
A little bit about me. I married a Ukrainian into a Ukrainian family.
Really?
He is third generation. His baba is directly from Ukraine. And yeah, so we love Ukraine. We have currently 3 Ukrainian refugees that are working for our farm. And I have to say, you are all inspiring just as you are. So I'm so excited to share your story. And yeah.
So great. I'm so happy that you have such a wonderful Ukrainian person next to you.
Yeah.
That's definitely great.
So good. So good. Were you involved in agriculture in any way back in Ukraine?
So I grew up in Kyiv, the capital in Ukraine, but every weekends in autumn, spring, and whole summer, my dad had a little a village in a rural area. So basically all people have their own garden, vegetable garden. And so for Ukrainians, it's pretty normal in people in that areas have their own gardens, and they pretty much sustain themselves. And I think it's really good how often people rely on this structures, on groceries, and to feed themselves. But a lot of people who live not in cities, they can actually live completely by themselves and feeding yourselves. Yeah, and so, but for me, most of my life, I really didn't like agriculture, because every summer with my parents, I go to this garden, work on crops, on fields, and this is 30, 40 degrees Celsius, in summer, and it's so hot, and you need to work on this field to seed some plants or clean the garden, and it was physically really hard. So for the long time, I really didn't want to do this, because I know how hard it is actually doing this. Yeah.
So what inspired you then to come to Canada and take agriculture in school?
I know. My parents were so surprised when I chose it. But actually, when I was 13, I became vegetarian. But if you don't eat meat, but you still need some proteins, you want to still eat some tasty food, good food, not only potatoes or salads, because it's pretty sad. And I was trying to find some alternatives, something tasty what you can eat. But in Ukraine, we didn't have a lot of companies that produce plant-based food or alternatives. Maybe 5 or 6 Ukraine-based companies, but it's really small amount, and there's a big space for growth for vegan vegetarian market. And it's really inspired me. I thought, I want to change this situation. I want to give people more options. So even though a lot of people thinking about that, but they think, I don't have a lot of choices what I can eat other than meat, and something by reasonable price, and also that tastes good. And I think, I should change the situation. And that's why I choose my major, agriculture, with minor food business management, because it really aligns more with a science side and also a business side. Yeah.
Very cool. Is this your first? It's your first time at Advancing Women in Agriculture.
Yeah.
What's been your biggest takeaway?
Actually, is that everything is possible, because when I see all these women that succeed in some way, and even though they also share their struggles, their backstories, that not everything went really straight glad, but they still made efforts. It's still eventually succeed. And I was a lot of time I was afraid, how actually to do this, but I see that this is possible. This gives me ideas that everything is possible, and you just need to keep doing it what you
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we need to keep sharing our stories and not deleting them. Right?
Right.
So good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what your involvement in agriculture is.
I'm Robin Anderson, and I am the Director of Programs and Communications with the Canadian Agricultural Safety Association.
That's amazing. Tell us more about your job and what you do.
Well, CASA is a really amazing organization. We're a not-for-profit, real small. There's 4 staff, and we work to improve the lives and safety and health of Canadian farmers, farm workers, farm families, and farming communities with partners in agriculture.
So cool. How did you get involved in this job? How did you get your job?
Well, I am a farm safety kid from way back. Grew up on a farm in southern Saskatchewan, and when I was 15 years old, I joined the Power Pack program, which is a speakers bureau of kids talking to other kids about farm safety. And it just was a passion, growing up on the farm, seeing, what a great lifestyle it is, and wanting those farm families to be sustainable. And the idea of farmers losing children or themselves or even their farm is just an incredibly, I'm so sorry, I'm crying.
Oh, honey, do not apologize ever. We call it getting misty.
Yeah, it's such a passion, right? Because we want to see these farm families succeed and thrive. Yeah. And, when someone dies of a completely preventable incident, it is devastating. Mm-hmm. Not only to that farm family, but that farm community. And, growing up in that, beautiful place and with those great values. Just wanting to see that continue for all Canadians and all farm families has just really been a passion of mine for more than half my life. Right. And, moving around and, coming back to the prairies after being away in the East Coast for a while, and then the Canadian Agriculture Safety Association was hiring, and it was almost like a sign, that moment. And I was like, that's for me. That's my role. Right. And, I've been there for now 10 years, and we just do such good things there. And such incredible work with such small budgets and with dedicated and really fabulous people bringing that message to all Canadians.
Absolutely. And we are so lucky to have you as an advocate for us. Like you said, we have a beautiful life and we get to grow up and live in a way that not a lot of people get to. And to do it in a way that we all get to come home at the end of the day is so important. And the passion that you have for this. And I love that full circle moment for you, being the safety vest kid, talking about farm safety in schools and whatever, and now being an advocate on a bigger level. This is a question. What do you need from us as farmers, or what do you need policy-wise in order for your small organization to thrive? What do you need from us?
A buy-in.
Yeah.
Buy-in. That willingness. Farmers are amazing. Honestly, when you get farmers and farm families and farming communities together, the ingenuity, the resilience, the incredible amount of just passion you see in these folks, we have all that stuff as in agriculture, in farming in Canada. And we just need to take that step further and be like, okay, how are we going to keep everybody safe on this farm? The sad reality is when we lose folks on the farm, that farm often does not last. It goes under. And we need our agricultural industry and our farmers and our farm families to thrive and succeed. So that buy-in about safety being at the very base level, not even the safety first, but safety always, right? And being like, okay, taking our time, right? Doing those pre-checks, talking to our kids, making sure our kids are super safe, having those conversations about equipment, having those conversations amongst each other about our own stress levels and our mental health and our check-ins. Farm machinery maintenance isn't it's not something you can not do. It's completely necessary. So is self-maintenance, right? You wouldn't go out harvesting in a broken down combine. Well, you shouldn't go harvesting with a broken down soul, body, or mind. Yep. Right? So slowing down, having that buy-in, having that conversation, those sorts of things, from the boots on the ground, that makes all the difference. And talking to each other, right? And not being afraid to stand up and say, hey, you know what? I know we've done this for a really long time, but it's just incredibly unsafe, and we need to make some changes. You have to make changes in order to thrive and succeed.
Absolutely.
So that's what I would love to see, is that buy-in and just that moment of just self-reflection and self-maintenance and self-care for each other.
Amazing. Oh, I need to, we're doing a full interview with Robin here. What's been your biggest takeaway from the Advancing Women's Conference?
What I love about this conference is just hearing from these women that are just so passionate about agriculture and who are just leaders, just incredible leaders, even if they don't think they're a leader, right? We've done a couple studies and people will identify I'm a farm wife. And I'm like, yeah, you are. That's amazing. Do you know how many hats you wear? You wear so many hats. And then them talking and hearing and just overhearing the conversations that they have with each other about, things that they both relate to, everyone relates to, right? The stress, the imposter syndrome. Oh, I just do the books and, I just help out here or there. I'm like, you were the CFO of an incredible operation. Like, own that. That's amazing. That's incredible. And then the stresses that come along with farming, right? And we did do a study, and, women talk about being stressed out about the idea about having a farm accident on the farm, like somebody getting hurt. And I can imagine, like, how stressful that must be and how tough that just really must be for those women. I had this great conversation with a farm mom, and she was talking about, she was out with moving silage, and her 3-year-old was in the house with her older siblings, and all of a sudden she called up the house and said, okay, I'm just doing this. Can you make sure our 3-year-old's okay? And they're like, oh, we don't know where she is. And immediately she shuts down her equipment and she's just beside herself because she doesn't know where this kid is. So not only is she completely worried about this child, but now she's taking like her eye and mind off of her activity, which could be highly dangerous, where she can now get injured because her mind is going in 15 different directions, worried about the safety of her child, worried about silage, worried about this, that, and the other thing. And that could lead to her being injured. Right? And it was a happy ending and everybody was okay. Grandma had the 3-year-old. But that kind of stuff, right, is just it's incredible to hear it and just to be like, yeah, we know what we're hearing and how can we action this to make a difference.
Absolutely. Robin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and how you're involved in agriculture.
So I'm Pracilla Wenyika. I'm originally from Zimbabwe, but right now I live in Edmonton, where I'm doing my PhD in soil science. So I'm involved in agriculture through my research. So I'm working on a project that is assessing the effects of liming on soil health in the Canadian prairies.
How did you end up here?
Wow.
Of all of the places in the world you could have gone, how did you end up in Alberta?
It's quite an interesting journey. So I started off in Winnipeg, Manitoba, where I came to do my master's in soil science. And so I really enjoyed research and I wanted to do more. And so I started looking up for other opportunities where I could do research and learn more about agriculture, especially in the prairies, because I'm coming from like a tropical country and Canada is like very opposite, temperate. So I wanted to learn more about agriculture in Canada. So that pushed me to look for other opportunities so that I could learn more for research. So I was looking for opportunities in other places. So I ended up finding one at the University of Alberta, and the project was really interesting because it was talking about soil health, which was a buzz at the time, and it is still now. So I was like really attracted to that. So that's how I ended up in agriculture.
Very cool. Were you involved in agriculture back in Zimbabwe?
Just a little bit. So my parents, they do like a small scale production. So they were like growing crops, and they also did a little bit of animal like poultry and piggery production. And so I was exposed to agriculture like at a very young age, and I also did some agriculture in high school. And so we did like mini projects, and they were really interesting, growing some crops and stuff like that. And so also for my bachelor's, I did crop science. So that has been like my involvement in agriculture.
Yeah, that's awesome. What kind of crops were you growing in Zimbabwe?
So we were growing mostly corn, or we call it maize there. But yeah, that was like the major crops. But we could also grow like vegetables. Yeah.
Absolutely. Very cool. What are your plans for when you're done your schooling?
So I'm really interested in research as well as teaching. So I would like to be in academia, but I'm also very open to getting into industry as well, and just continue with research work and helping to find solutions that can improve like agricultural production and soil health.
Very cool. So I married a man who is absolutely in love with soil health. And I feel like soil health people get soil health people, and your love of the soil is inspiring to me. I lack in that area. I can hear terms and I'm like, I've heard that word before, but it's not my wheelhouse. Tell me what it is that you are so passionate about the soil. Why do you love soil?
I'm just thinking about my master's, for example. I was working with plant parasitic nematodes. So you can imagine these are like microscopic worms. Yeah. So just take a few grams of soil and you go under the microscope. You will be amazed the things that you will see, like bacteria, fungi, nematodes. Like it's a whole world in the soil. So it's really amazing to see that soil is actually life. It's a whole ecosystem that we need and that we should take care of.
Yeah. Absolutely. She's not kidding. When you look in the microscope, there are the things in there. I've seen them in real life. It's very cool. Very cool. What have you been to Advancing Women before the conference?
No, I haven't.
No,
so
time.
This is my first time. Yeah.
And how is it?
Oh, I feel very inspired right now. Like I met great women, very inspiring stories, and I'm really happy to be here. So much to learn from, different people, and also with different experiences.
For sure. So good. Yeah. Thank you so much. You did awesome.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and how you are involved in agriculture.
My name is Mariia Melnychuk. I've been working for a Canadian Food Inspection Agency for the past 3 years, so I'm more on the food processing side of agriculture.
Amazing. Where are you from originally?
So originally I am from Ukraine. I moved to Ontario about 7 years ago, and then 5 years later, I moved to Calgary.
Amazing. Did you have any connection to agriculture in Ukraine?
No.
No?
I didn't.
No, it was a new thing. So how did you get involved in doing the job that you do today?
So I started a food technology program as my undergraduate degree at Niagara College, and then I realized that my interests were more in the food regulation, food law side of things. So that's how I ended up applying for an inspector position at the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and that's how it all started.
Very cool. Tell us what your typical day looks like at your job.
So my days can vary depending on the task I'm doing. A lot of the times, being a dairy inspector, it involves going on site, looking after dairy processing establishments. It could be importers as well. So my goal is to make sure that Canadian food businesses, food processors meet regulatory requirements, and to make sure that the food that they make or import into Canada is safe for Canadians.
Absolutely. it's such an important job. Like when we're thinking about the food chain, farmer, we grow the food and we send the food to where it needs to go to be processed. And, we as farmers take really a lot of pride in what we grow and what we raise. And in each step of the process is so important. And I know, food is life. We have to have food to survive. And there's so many different aspects of agriculture. I just think it's so fascinating of all of the different levels that we go to and just the passion behind it when it comes to food and food safety, for sure. Tell us what you are studying.
I'm studying food safety and quality assurance at the University of Guelph. I'm in the process of completing my Master's of Science degree, and I will officially be graduating in June.
Amazing.
So I'm almost done.
Congratulations. What's that journey been like for you through your schooling?
It's been a great journey. I was able to work full-time as I complete my Master's, and I'm truly thankful for this opportunity to keep working. University of Guelph has been an amazing school, providing all the flexibility that I needed to keep doing this. And honestly, it couldn't have been a better experience. In terms of the professors that I had the pleasure to work with, my research project that I'm hopefully completing soon.
Right.
Overall, it's been an amazing experience.
Very cool. So is this your first time at Advancing Women in Agriculture, or have you been here before?
It is my first time,
Okay.
but I sure hope it won't be my last time.
Oh, heck yeah, it won't be your last time. Tell us what has been some of your biggest takeaways?
I think the workshops have been great, and I really wish that I could have attended all of them.
Right.
I think the public speaking workshops were really great for me. It's something I don't always enjoy doing, but we all have to do it. I think in general, the atmosphere of the conference, the idea of empowering women, and is just amazing, and every speaker has been truly motivational and inspiring. So that's
awesome.
what I loved about this
Very
conference.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, it has been absolutely a pleasure to meet you. We've interacted a couple times over the last couple of days, and it's been really great to meet you. And thank you for doing what you do to keep our food safe and us all healthy. So thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hello there. How are you?
I'm great.
Good. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and your involvement in agriculture.
I'm Laurie Rowe. I'm the maker and the shaker of Jordan Ridge sauces out of Black Diamond, Alberta. And I'm involved in agriculture a little bit secondhand because I make a sweet sticky barbecue sauce line out of generational farm family recipes.
Very cool. What inspired you to be the maker and the shaker?
My grandma. The company's named after her. And we come from a very long line of strong women.
Right.
And there wasn't anything she couldn't do. And I just thought I'll just be saucy and continue the legacy.
Just be saucy. I love what you did there. Did your grandmother grow up in agriculture or in a farming operation?
Yes, they farmed. They had chickens. They had cattle. Small farming operation in Ontario, southern Ontario. So not out here in Alberta.
Yeah. I'm curious, did your grandmother, if people asked your grandmother what she did for her job or what she did, what did she say her title was?
I'm Bill's wife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you ever hear her call herself a farmer?
Never.
Never. Was your mother involved in agriculture in any way?
Not particularly.
Right.
We always went and helped with farming and haying, and you did what needed to be done because it was a close-knit family.
Yeah.
But she moved off and went into a government job.
Very cool. I'm always curious about the grandmother generation of what they called themselves. I married a man who, when I'm asked who my inspirational rural woman is, it's Baba. Mm-hmm. She is in her mid to late 90s now, and she did everything on that farm, soup to nuts, absolutely everything. Woman never had a driver's license in her life and operated any piece of equipment, used her back. She had over an acre of a garden. She raised all of her children. She butchered the chickens. She did all the things. And when you ask her, Baba, what did you do? I was Joe's wife, right? So interesting. And I always try and think about, we are still alive with these people who have been through so many things, right? And these are the women who are the original trailblazers for us. So what qualities do you think that are most inspiring to you from your grandmother? What qualities do you have that you got from her?
Well, besides being short and a bit of an energizer buddy, my grandma was called Granny Dynamite. That was her nickname. And I had called her one time. She was like 90 years old, still living in her own house. And I said to her, so what are you up to today, Grandma? And she said, oh, I'm just not, you know what? I'm just kind of feeling lazy and I'm not really doing much, but I wanted to do something that would make a difference today. I said, so what did you decide? She said, I went out and I planted multiplier onions. I thought, that's just it. She has picked one thing. She didn't feel well. She wasn't really healthy at that point. She wanted to do one thing that would make a difference. And planting multiplier onions, it's going to multiply all that goodness.
Yeah, amazing. So tell us more about your company and why you started it and why it's important to you to support the farmers through what you do.
One of our bylines is it's a solid tradition. And as a rural female entrepreneur, the feeling of being alone is big. You just do it. You do it and you tuck and roll and you get up and you keep going. Running a barbecue sauce company, I'm a little fish in a big pond. Right. And I know it. But I also know that I have a good product and I have a generational farm recipe that deserves to be upsized and made into a bottle that everybody can have on their table. Somebody coined the phrase that the maple campfire, which I grew up with on Grandma's meatballs, I put it on salmon. Of course, my kids, they do the chicken finger and broccoli root. But one of the phrases that coined was, this reminds me of a simpler time, and it reminds me of canoe trips and trail rides. And those were the times when you had the haying crew that would come in for lunch, and instead of 15, all of a sudden you've got 18 or 25. And you just tucked and rolled. You just did it. You provided for your family and for the community with what you were good at, and you just did it.
Right. And honestly, if anybody's ever had like a farm family recipe, those are way better than the big box, whatever you get at Costco, right? Like if I could have a baba pierogi versus a chimo, hands down, every time. Mm-hmm. What has been your biggest takeaway from the conference so far?
I would say that there is a huge community, and women don't give themselves enough credit. We are strong and resourceful, and we can birth children. Like, holy man. That's crazy. Yeah. But it's like this energy in the room that you can go out and plant those multiplier onions, or you can stir those sauces, and at the end of the day, you can go, I done good. Right. I have done good, and I'm proud of me, and I'm proud of the women that I'm bringing up, or the women that I'm mentoring or associated with. We're kick-ass.
We are built different.
Yes.
Whether we were born into it or we came into it kicking and screaming, we were born different. Laurie, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I am doing well.
Good. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what your place in agriculture is.
Yeah, my name is Kendra Wack. I grew up in West Central Saskatchewan on a mixed cattle and grain operation in a smaller community called Rosetown. Now I live in Saskatoon. I've worked now, amazingly to me the entire agri-food supply chain from raising the cows, and now I run a national nonprofit in the food sector teaching primarily females and women leadership skills and entrepreneurship skills to grow and scale and build food businesses off the primary points of agriculture.
So I feel like everyone in this room and in this conference and who's listening to this needs to pick your brain when it comes to financing for their businesses and all of the things. You and I just got to sit in on a very important conversation with government officials and kind of share with them from the farmer and industry perspective of what supports we need as women. In your point of view, when it comes to finances, what are we missing here? Like, what is the biggest red flag that you see?
Yeah, so my nonprofit, it's called FEED. It stands for Female Entrepreneurs in Agri-Food Development. One thing that we see is we see females, A, reach out less for venture capital, and B, get turned down more for venture capital. So 51% of business owners are actually females, and less than 30% of venture capital funding goes to females. So this is a massive issue, and we're running a venture capital readiness training program right now with small-scale food processors of Canada, and I cannot train people fast enough and get entrepreneurs through that program fast enough, and agriculture producers through that program fast enough for them to be able to catch up and meet that mark of that 51% in the actual demographic and population ratios that we see.
Right. From your experience, why are women not reaching out for this?
I think we heard today at the roundtable, astoundingly, there's a lot of confidence pieces. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of negative conversations that have happened. There's a lot of bias and belittling that has happened. Even with our male counterparts that may be advocates, they have unconscious biases that they don't necessarily see, and even we as females maybe don't see.
For sure. I'm so happy to be sitting across from you because this is bringing up, maybe something that I don't feel confident in when it comes to financial literacy and I can understand the basics. When I look at QuickBooks, I can understand if there's money there or if there's not money there, and if I can pay the people or if I can't pay the people, right? But when I think of venture capital and that kind of thing, I've never even considered this as something that I could do as an entrepreneur, as a small business. And it was actually at Advancing Women 2 years ago. I sat in on a session and they were talking about how Silicon Valley is like scrambling for farmers and like to work with farmers and food and all of these things, because they're like, hey, this is a gold mine. Like, people need to eat. Like, we could give them money and they could make us money, right? So how do we get more information out there to people about the opportunities that there are for venture capital for women entrepreneurs?
Yeah, it's interesting because unfortunately for us, as sexy as it may have been for Silicon Valley, food and agriculture are not sexy industries to invest in. You can build an app with really under 5 figures. You can whip up an app. You can open a podcast and start a podcast with very low investment. And when you're looking at building food products, especially off of primary points of agriculture, creating new products, creating new processing facilities, manufacturing processes, and ensuring everything is not only great and your quality is fantastic, but then ensuring you're compliant with all of the policies and red tape in place. It's not sexy. It is not an exciting industry for venture capital to be in. And then you couple that with the bias of females getting less venture capital. And it's a wall. And what we're trying to do is, my team, we're looking at the wall and we're saying, okay, here's one brick. Let's take down one brick. And, if we can take down one brick at a time by teaching one female at a time to be confident enough to answer those hard questions and to not get that shake in their voice, or to maybe repose the question when they're asked, oh, do you have any personal or any commitments outside of work or outside of this business that could prevent you from growing or scaling appropriately. You wouldn't ask a male counterpart that.
AKA, do you have children?
Yeah, AKA.
Do you plan on producing from your womb that will take away from earning us money?
Exactly.
Yeah. So interesting. So fascinating. What's been one of your biggest takeaways from the conference?
I freaking love AWC. It's my favorite 2 weeks-ish of the year because I go to East as well as West. And just the community cannot be beat. Iris has created a safe community, a community of energy like you don't see at any other conference. I have been to other advancing women conferences in agriculture, and just this community and the amount of rallying that happens here across, it's not even just, in like the 30 to 35 year olds. It's like the 17, 18 year olds to the 65 and 70 year olds. And we really see those generational relationships forming, which you don't see at a lot of other places.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Calling all women passionate about agriculture and food. Join us at the Advancing Women in Agriculture Conference, November 17th through 19th, 2024, at the Sheraton Falls View in Niagara Falls, Ontario. Whether you're a university student studying agriculture, a producer, an entrepreneur, or working in agribusiness, this conference is for you. The Advancing Women in Agriculture Conference empowers women to grow their careers, families, and communities through communication and coaching, mentoring and networking, financial management and independence, health and work-life balance, career planning, and goal setting. With a rich history of connecting women across Canada and parts of the U.S., Advancing Women delivers top-notch speakers, including industry experts, business leaders, and motivational speakers. Don't miss out. Register today at advancingwomenconference.ca or by heading to the link in today's show notes. Hello.
Hi.
Who are you? Where are you from? And what is your involvement in agriculture?
My name is Julianne Warner, and I'm from Makwa, Saskatchewan, where my family owns a commercial cow-calf operation. And right now I'm attending Lakeline College, and I'll graduate in the spring with my diploma in agribusiness, which I hope to continue on to the U of S to get my degree, which will be very fun. And my involvement in ag, well, I grew up on a family farm, and when in school they asked me what do I want to do when I was older, I really wanted to go back to the ag world for 2 reasons. One, to make my grandpa proud. Like, I loved watching him farm, just going out on the quad ride with him, checking cows, and like we would go on like quad rides. He'd point at a field and like just have so many stories to tell. And 2, the other one's more of like a selfish reason, but I had one person tell me, "You're a girl, you can't do it." So I'm doing it to prove them wrong. And that's what's got me here so far, is just prove them wrong and to show them that girls are as important as men and they make a stronger impact in some situations.
I think we're allowed to cheer. Like, I'm the boss, right? Like, you guys can cheer and things. Yeah, it's good. You're a girl after my own heart of telling us what we can and can't do, and the proving wrong. There is a special, delicate way, and you have to do it humbly, or you come off like a middle-aged man if you don't. What is driving you to continue your education after your first 2 years? Why do you want to keep going?
The ag world is such an awesome world, and there's so many different fields you can take. Like, no matter your interest, you can find something that lights your fire. Like, you can find something that you enjoy. And for me, I loved growing up where I knew where my food was coming from. I could go outside, visit the cows. I didn't have sirens all over the place. Like, it just was such a cool way to grow up. Yeah. And I love it. It's amazing.
And cow-calf operations, there's baby cows there. And
yes.
I'm a big fan of baby cows. What has been a big takeaway for you from Advancing Women?
That you walked into the room and there were so many people that wanted to hear your story. They cared about your impact in ag. They wanted to know more about you, and they're there to help you, push you along. Like, I'm just 19 and there's so more places I can go, but it's nice to know like there's women out there that want to know what I want to do and help me get me there. And like, it's cool just hearing all their stories and what got them there.
Right. So I have an extra question for you. As a very baby 19-year-old, how does it feel to know that the pressure of agriculture is on your shoulders?
I will say it's a little stressful.
Right? It is.
But it's honestly cool that at such a young age, you can make a huge impact. And it's cool that I can help with this generation and the next generation coming.
Heck yes, you can. Promise me you'll come back.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll definitely come back.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Tell us who you are, where you're from, and how you got your start in agriculture.
Sure. My name is Janet Nowosad. I am from Clandonald, Alberta, which is a wee little town about 20 miles north of Vermilion. My husband and myself, we run a mixed farming operation. We have about 150 cows, do a little grain farming as well. That's the one hat I wear. The other hat I wear is I am a research technician with Lakeland College, working with the applied research team on various livestock projects.
Very cool. How did you get into the research field?
Kind of by accident. My husband worked an oil patch job. Did that for a lot of years. So I was at home, running the farm, calving the cows, doing it all. He got tired of the patch, wanted to be on the farm. That is his true love. So we started planning and going, kind of looking at want ads and stuff, seeing what's out there, trying to make some decisions. And this opportunity came up, and I'm like, that would be interesting. I don't need to go and farm. I know how to do that. But research, I don't know research. It sounds cool. You get to be on the edge of what's coming out. That would be valuable to take back to my farm. So I took a shot, went for the interview. They hired me, so I've been there for 2 years now.
Right. So I love that you say this, and this is going to be my Roman Empire for this conference and what I take away from it. The amount of incredible women that I have had the privilege of meeting here, and the number of you who have said, well, I didn't have the qualifications for the job, but I applied and I got it anyways. Like, a round of applause for that. How many times have we limited ourselves for not going for something because we didn't think we belonged there?
Too many.
Too many, yeah.
I still find myself catching myself that I only have a diploma. Mm-hmm. I only did this. And when I hear stories of other people, it's like, no, I have a right to call myself this. Not that I ever felt that I couldn't say that I'm a farmer. I always grew up in an environment where my dad, he'd teach me whatever I wanted to know about the farm. My husband always respected me. Listening to some of the other stories, I've never had to confront that. I've always felt very confident in the industry.
What has been one of your biggest takeaways from the conference?
Something that struck me, because in another hat, I am a mom. The whole work-life balance, it's a struggle. Mm-hmm. You try and figure it out. And I went to one session yesterday that very clearly defined how much time, if you're working a job, if you're looking after your sleep and that kind of stuff, how much time that actually takes in your day. Mm-hmm. To give myself a little grace.
Yeah.
It's okay. If the house is a wreck, or if if I didn't get that walk in today because things happen, it's okay. It's also okay for me to raise my son to take on some of those responsibilities too, because we have to.
Right. I'm going to call you out on something you told me yesterday.
Sure.
Why are you sitting here talking to me?
That is
Why did my pressure...
peer pressure.
Exactly.
Why did I sit down? I think as an older lady in the industry that there are young people looking up to me. I always stress to my son, we're very involved in rodeo. There's always somebody looking at you. There's always somebody littler watching you. Well, that applies to me too. And how I carry myself, how I present myself, it may never come back to me. But if I say that I am a farmer, I am in my role, it is okay to do that. It is okay to aspire to that. And it's great that people have big, lofty dreams. But if that's not your big, lofty dream, that's okay too. It is okay to just want to raise your family in a wonderful environment.
Absolutely.
It is, yeah, if you aspire, great. Go for it. But yes.
Well, thank you for coming to talk to me. And I'm glad you're here and the courage that it took to sit down, because it took some convincing.
It did. You had to push me a little bit.
But you know what? Once you do this, you're going to have the confidence and the courage to do maybe a little other thing that's maybe a little scary for you.
Yep. Can't limit yourself.
Exactly. You're awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Hi there.
Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what your involvement in agriculture is.
Okay, so my name is Erin Day. I'm based out of Kelowna, BC. I'm fifth generation farmer on our family farm. I'm also a mom of 3-year-old twins, a boy and a girl. I wear many hats on the farm, which includes managing our vegetable garden and on-farm market garden. I do all of the financials for our 3 businesses. I'm food safety and operations manager of our parapacking facility, and I've always had a huge passion for our family farm, following in my dad's footsteps. What kind of brought me back to the family farm? I started my degree in biology after graduating in 2013, and I had no idea where I was going with it. I felt like I was wasting money, wasting time. It felt like a really big risk to me to stop going to school because, I always believed that's what was expected. That's what you're supposed to do. And, I had a lot of support from my family in making the leap back to that's where I am now. I'm wearing lots of hats and carrying on the legacy.
For sure. What's the most rewarding hat that you wear? What are you most passionate about?
Okay, well, I'm very proud of my mom hat. I love being a mother, but looking at the farm aspect, I think the most rewarding is having my finger in everything. It's really overwhelming wearing all the different hats, but I like to have control, and that has been a bit of a downfall because I am a perfectionist. And so that's been kind of my journey, is learning that, it doesn't have to be perfect, and you're learning as you go, and you'll get there. So,
right. I think, we wear so many hats, and I think there's the expectation that we put on ourselves that we have to look good in that hat, and we have to do a good job at every one of those jobs that we have.
Yes.
And we forget that we weren't meant to do this alone.
Yeah, yes. And, like I said, that's been a huge learning curve, is like, it's okay to fail. use it as a learning experience, surround yourself with support system. And for me, it's my family. You know, my father and my aunt are my bosses. My grandfather's still on the farm. He still works, feeds our barn. So yeah, I think that's my biggest thing is like, it's okay to fail and use it as a learning experience. And like, it's not the end of the world.
Right? Exactly. We get to farm another day.
Yes.
Right? The rain will come, the hail will come, the drought will be here for a while probably. But we get to do it again. So That's amazing. What's been your biggest takeaway from the conference so far?
My biggest takeaway really has been the eye-opening that I'm not alone. In my position, I am the only one in my office. I do everything, and I feel very alone. And it's just been really great to see all the young women, middle-aged women, older women in ag and like going through the same things that I'm going through, working up, whether it's family business or corporate or whatever. It's like, it's just been really, really inspiring to me to hear all these stories and like learn from all these women that have like done these steps before me. That's been my biggest takeaway. I feel less alone now.
Right. We're not alone. We don't have to do it alone either.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Thanks, Erin.
Yeah, thank you.
Catherine, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what your involvement in agriculture is.
My name is Catherine Kerkoff. I am from originally Bow Island in the south of Alberta. Yeah.
They have a giant pinto bean, right?
Yes.
I drive past it. It's amazing.
Pinto McBean, baby. Yep. And I'm now living in Tabor with my husband, who is in the oil field. So I'm involved in agriculture as an agronomist and have been for the last 25 years, in and out of working, but also pretty much working through the whole time. So, yeah.
So what has been one of your biggest takeaways here at the conference?
I really appreciated talking to other women. When I go to conferences, and since I've started this job, it is a male-dominated role. That's just the way it is, right? It's amazing to see the amount of women coming into the industry and the shift in that change. And it's not that, I'm like, oh, men suck, boo. It's just that women never got the opportunities. And it's not that we maybe necessarily didn't have the ability to. It's that there was other roles going on. It was a different time. Mm-hmm. And time has changed. We have more opportunities. We have daycare. We have, men that stay home, and it's okay for the men to stay home. Mm-hmm. It's okay for men to maybe be dads more full-time. It's okay for women to be running the tractors. And when I started in agriculture, my dad was very supportive of me being on the equipment. And when the neighbors seen me on equipment, they were like, wow, there's a difference in women running equipment versus men. Men are good at what they do, but women, they look at it differently. They tackle those jobs differently. So it was really, I'm very thankful for the lifestyle that I grew up in, because the men accepted me. And it took a while to get there. Like you said, you kind of have to prove yourself, but you can't be cocky about it. You got to prove it, and you got to prove it with hard work. But it was worth every step. So
right. Humility is worth its price in gold, right? Mm-hmm. Like when we think of it in a broad term. And I think, in male-dominated industries, women just have that skill set that is needed for that human aspect to be there. Mm-hmm. Right? We bring the humility, we bring the empathy, we bring a different way of looking at things. Sure. And, I've had conversations many times about the Rural Woman podcast and not having the men's on the podcast. Does that mean I hate men? Well, not all of them, but some I do. But, it, like you said, it's not about bashing them. It's not about them not being part of the conversation. They need to be part of this conversation. Absolutely. We need to have these conversations with them so they can understand what the other side looks like. Because, we might think, well, it's 2024, there can't be these biases anymore. But sorry, there is. Mm-hmm. And a conversation that we had at a greater table was, do we need the women things anymore? Do we need a women's conference? Can it just be a people's conference, or can't it just be the Rural People podcast or any of those things? And until women are treated equally, then yes, we do, because we need to keep talking about these things.
Yes.
And it's exhausting. I think there needs to be more movement in the other way to have the conversations in industry, and where we're all at the table and we can all talk about it, and we're all going to listen and comprehend what the other person is feeling. I want to know from you, working in the field that you do, has there ever been a time where you felt, well, you said you had to prove yourself, but did you feel like you had to go that extra mile when it came to proving yourself with your male colleagues or in leadership roles?
Well, there's so many ways to answer that question, because I think with every job I've had and with every step in my life between family, and I had to change my roles every time to accommodate my family. And that wasn't a step back for me. It was what we needed to do to keep my family together. And I'm okay with that. But I know that, sometimes the male counterparts, they don't need to worry about that. They get up in the morning, they put on the new underwear, and they go to work. They get their coffee ready. But when I go to work, it's a different scene. And that's just the work-life balance that I created with my family. It doesn't mean that that's the woman role. It's just the balance that we created. And so sometimes I felt like there was a struggle at work, because I would try to be honest, and certain roles I didn't get because I was honest. And I would tell them, this is what I'm worth, and I'm good at what I do. If you want me, you're going to give me the hours I need. And if you can't give me those hours, you don't deserve me. So you're either going to get me, and we'll move forward.
Amazing. So good. Thank you for saying that piece. You guys can't see us right now, but there are young people here who haven't gotten into their careers yet. Mm-hmm. And, you might not have had to have those conversations quite yet. Or, even with your parents, tell them what you're worth. Tell them what you bring to the table, because it is monetarily worth something. So.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Hello.
Hey.
Tell
how
us.
Are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what your involvement in agriculture is.
Okay. So my name is Angela Geng, and I'm from BC, Vancouver, and I'm currently a fourth-year nutritional science student. You might be wondering what a nutritional science student doing here. So here's the thing. I have a dream. I want to start my own entrepreneur in food processing, specifically making those prepackaged meals. I know people have bias on how they treat with processed food because it's carcinogens. It might induce a lot of cardiovascular disease. It's high with sodium, of course. So my entrepreneur is not only just about bringing healthy food to people, it's also about supporting the sustainable food system. So in that case, the local farms is a very important step from that. I want to support the local farmers so they could have their own way to sell their food, and it will really produce a more sustainable food system. When we're talking about feeding 9 billions, it's true that there are still people starving, but I think the main reason is not about how much food we're producing. It's more about how the food sources are used. So I think supporting the local farms will help with that process, and this is why I'm here. So I want to see how farmers and how those excellent women do to support the farm and the agriculture, and that's why I'm here.
That's the perfect reason to be here. Food is agriculture.
Oh yeah,
right?
Definitely.
You have a big seat at the table, and you have big shoes to fill, because we grow it. You got to get it to people, and you got to feed them. I'm curious. So every entrepreneur has the story of why they're an entrepreneur or want to be an entrepreneur. I'm curious to know what sparked this idea for you. What makes you, and why do you want to do this?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I'm kind of like the girl that always fight back when people say back to me. I'm hearing those comments saying like, oh, Angela, you cannot do this because you're a girl. And also, I've told my ideas about my entrepreneur to my people around me, and they always giving me negative feedbacks. And I hate that. And every time when people say that thing to me, I want to prove them that they're wrong.
Right.
So that's was the initial reason that why I want to start my entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know sometimes it's kind of toxic when you try to prove yourself because you care about others' opinions. But like, yeah, that's what I am.
I get it, Angela. I get it. We can clap. We can clap for Angela. So what has been your biggest takeaway from the conference so far?
Yeah, so since you have already talked about the B words, I want to talk about my C words.
Oh.
Yeah.
Naughty. Okay.
So like my C words is courage of competition. Mm-hmm. Like I know like sometimes I lack my courage even like when others saying bad thing to me, I want to prove it, but I sometimes got caught in their kind of feelings of anxious. And also, like, I just don't know what to do about that because even, like, you try to fight back, but there's nothing you can refer to. You always get lonely and you don't know what to do. So my takeaway from this conference is I see the strengths from the other women, and I got my role models. I got the support from the community, and I think I find my source of energy and courage inside of me, and that's my biggest takeaway.
Amazing. And you know what? The courage it takes to come and sit down here and talk to the scary lady with a microphone, you're going to move mountains. No, thank you so much.
You're also my role model.
Oh, thank you. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I am very well.
Good. Good. Tell us your name, where you're from, and how you're involved in agriculture.
Okay. My name is Andrea Hanson, and I am from the Black Diamond area now. I'm just east of Black Diamond. And I work with Lakeland College remotely as an assistant researcher and also take that research and extend it out to our students and rural population, to our producers, as an extension specialist.
Very cool. Have you always worked remotely, or was this due to the pandemic that you started working remotely?
It would have been because of the pandemic, or that's, I think, what really helped to allow this to continue to happen. So, because we were able to just do some remote stuff, and the researcher that I do help has always been in the Calgary area doing her research. So it was just a great way for us to be involved with Lakeland without having to move and still get the great work done.
Yeah, that's amazing. Tell us more about your position and what it all entails.
Well, it can be really different from one day to the next. Right now, the researcher that I work with, Dr. Brenda Ralston, she does a lot of research in the animal welfare and wellness side of things. So she's been working with another company in Calgary called AVL Solvet, Alberta Veterinary Laboratories in Solvet, looking at a band that has been released into the U.S. We're still working on it for Canada that will that infuses lidocaine into the elastrator bands. Okay. So it helps to just, it's another tool in a producer's toolbox to ensure that we can show due diligence on pain management. And then as well, there's a number of different products in more of the nutrition side, going right from the neonatal level right through to the older, mature animals.
That's so neat. And, it's something, like you said, it's a tool in a toolbox to use. And it's just the innovation in agriculture is always mind-blowing to me. I think of the history of agriculture specifically in our country and, just the technologies and the advancements and everything. Like there's whole other podcasts we can talk about all of the neat things that happen in our industry. I want to put you on the spot, Andrea. Sure. I had the privilege and honor of helping award you an amazing award the other day. So let's talk about that a little bit. So you were the recipient of the Promoter Award from the AFSC Women in Agriculture Award. Tell me what that was like to get that phone call.
It was a bit shocking. I completely unexpected. My first reaction was, why me? There are so many women that have just as much more qualifications. Very honored to be recognized. And now just have another purpose to really move forward in the industry and prove that I'm worthy of something like this.
Right. Well, you have proven you are worthy of this, and I think it's a great testament to the work that you've done in the agriculture industry, and just another tool in your toolbox to continue to mentor the next generation of agriculture. What's been your biggest takeaway from AWC this time around?
Probably the whole idea that we're all on this journey together, mm-hmm. and there's a lot of us that have a lot of similar stories, but there's a lot of nuances within those stories, and we learn from each other. We just help each other out that way. It's like me getting this award. It's a team effort. This was not just me. This was years of family, friends, colleagues. Everybody has a part to play in where I'm at today. So it's a case that I celebrate this with a lot of people, and there's a lot of I feel like the agriculture is in very good hands moving forward with Absolutely. Our young people.
I totally agree. Thank you so much for this. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Rural Woman Podcast. The Rural Woman Podcast is more than just a podcast. We are a community. A huge thank you to the Rural Woman Podcast team, audio editor Max Hofer, and admin support from Kim & Co. Online. A special thanks to our Patreon executive producers, Sarah Riedner from Happiness by the Acre and Carrie Munven from Blaystone Farms. To learn how you can become a Patreon executive producer or other ways to financially support the show, head on over to wildrosefarmer.com to learn more. Be sure to hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to the podcast to get the latest episodes directly on your playlist. And if you are loving the show, please be sure to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any other platform that accepts ratings and reviews. You can connect with us on social media at The Rural Woman Podcast and with me at Wild Rose Farmer. One of the best ways you can support the show is by sharing it. Send this episode to a friend or share on your social media. Let's strengthen and amplify the voices of women in agriculture together. Until next time, my friend, keep sharing your story.